Hello everyone, welcome back. Let's get right into the project. So let me show you what I got going on. So I'm getting ready to install this stuff back on this window. I am getting really excited about seeing one window back together, polyurethane, shellacked. Polyurethane's a bad word in this house. Shellacked and just, you know, back together, beautiful, perfect, and amazing. So here's what we're working with. This is the big panel of curly pine that goes underneath the window. As you can see, it had a crack on it. Here's the top part of the trim. And of course they're not plinth blocks, but they're not rosettes, so I'm not exactly sure what you would call these big guys, or the middle blocks there. But we're gonna go ahead and put them all back up, so enjoy a time lapse of that. Also real quick, because I know a few people have been telling me, yes, I did use some spray foam in here, and then I'm going to follow that up with some rock wool, which should work. And because it's a stone material, it should not accumulate any mold, which will be awesome. So there are no moisture problems currently, but if there are in the future, we shouldn't have any problems there. So let's get at it. For the updates of the week, I figured I would go ahead and start down here in the basement because it's probably the biggest one of the week. So let me show you. So as you can see, the trench has been filled. Concreted over. Does it look the most pretty? But no, but it does work, and that's the most important thing. You can see we even have the little drain out this way, right there. Sorry about the dirty glass. There's one of the stacks right there. This one controls the first floor bathroom and the kitchen. I do know somebody asked in the comments why it's run this weird kind of a way around as opposed to kind of just going straight back from where it is, which would be a straight shot. The biggest reason for that is I did not want to damage this floor. If I had run it, because that's where it starts, right, the stack, run it over there, this would have to come out. And I really didn't want to do that because this stuff is beautiful. I mean, this tile is part of the house's history, and I try my best not to destroy that sort of stuff because that would be tragic in my opinion. So that is why that pipe didn't run that way. You can see also we're pretty close at this point here with the way this is all set up that I could get a toilet and a sink right here pretty easily, which means I would have a functioning bathroom. Of course, the stack does need to be hooked all the way up because if not, the smells of this toilet would be coming out of that pipe. So that's got to be hooked up for venting purposes. So that'll be coming hopefully somewhat soon. Of course, not super soon because I was able to afford this amount of plumbing and I was able to afford a little bit of electrical, electrical being more important to me currently. but I have to kind of pick and choose what I do at any given time instead of doing the whole project at once, simply because I haven't got my loan yet. I'm not made of money, and so it's kind of a piecemeal process, which I know is annoying, but it is the way I have to do it because, well, because of money. So as I told you guys last week, I was hoping to get the electrician in here. He was scheduled to come in, but he had a close family member pass away, and so he had to go attend funerals and all that good, well, all that awful stuff. Yeah, so he wasn't able to make it this week. He should be here next week. Fingers crossed nothing crazy happens in that respect, because power is something I need desperately. Just something reliable, something that I'm not scared of, something that I can use and be confident in. It solves a lot of issues, but it's not going to happen in this video, unfortunately, guys. But that's the way she goes. You know, you can't be mad about, you know, somebody's family member passing. There's you know, no way I could be mad at that. So it's just the way life works. And hopefully next week, hopefully, I can show you guys like a working light fixture or a sconce or something like that. On the topic of lighting, I know maybe a few of you guys were confused, and I think I maybe confused you guys with my wording. It wasn't the best. What I was meaning by gas or electric, I'm meaning aesthetically. Everything goes electric in this house. I'm not gonna deal with gas because, simply put, I'd have to rip out a lot of the ceilings to rerun a lot of the gas lines, because most of them have been cut. Some were in the walls, some I've seen in the basement. So you'd have to lose a lot to get that function back. And A, it's not worth it. B, I don't know that I'd use it that much. It's also kind of expensive to run, more expensive than electric, of course. So yes, it's always been an aesthetic thing. So obviously gas fixtures come up, they have a bigger dome to them. Electric fixtures point down, at least in this era. And let me run you through a few light fixtures to kind of show you the difference between everything, all right? So there are three main types really to the fixtures. This one probably won't be used in the house. This is probably a 19-teens. It might even be a reproduction, but essentially this is a flush mount bracket that would go up against, your box would be here, and these would hang, right? So this is pretty common for, like I said, like the teens, 20s. Obviously the 20 you get more Art Deco. This is not Deco. This would be, oh, I don't know, Rococo or something. No, I don't always know exactly what style everything is, so forgive me there. And this would be common in mostly cities. Sometimes slightly larger towns might have a power station by the time these were kind of around and becoming popular. But still, the vast majority of houses would have not had this either. You'd have still had to be pretty wealthy at the time to have power like this. Now this behemoth here is, as you can see, it is huge. Massive, massive things. This right here was a kerosene style lamp. Now this would have been more common, you know, earlier period. Kerosene was used for a long, long time, but let's say 1850s or something, this would have been super common. And up until like when my house was built, and was still in use well into the 50s. For certain more country or rural houses. And so if you had a very grand, like let's say Queen Anne in a small town and you didn't have power yet, gas lines, you didn't have like city gas lines, you would have used something like this. And so on these arms here, now this has been electrified, so it is a 2 fixture, but you can see my hand next to how big these things are. Like they're just giant glass domes, and then you would have had the chimney that came through here. This one is missing its chimneys, probably because it didn't fit around the light bulb. Still, cool fixture. I don't know if it works aesthetically in my house because of it being a more rural piece, and it, you know, being so massive. I don't know if it quite works. So I'm gonna bring you guys to this piece here. This is a full-on gas fixture. Now the gas, of course, jets are gone, but they would have poked out up here, just like mine does in the hallway. Essentially, these only worked if you had a pipe connection to the ceiling that connected to the pipe of the ceiling that would push gas through. The fuel came from city services. So essentially, if you did not have or did not live in a city big enough or didn't have or wasn't developed enough to have gas, that's where this all, you know, kind of comes into. Yeah, so essentially if you didn't live in the right place at the right time, you wouldn't have these fixtures. Now the Campbell house is full of these because it's a grand house, it's a rather large mansion, or not the largest, but it's a big place. And it was really finely appointed with, you know, mini fineries, if you will. And some of the more cutting edge technology at the time was things like this. But of course you had to live in a place that had the service to be able to buy these lights. So now to what makes my house really special is the fact that this chandelier, right? And I go on and I can explain it 1,000 times that it has the gas and the electric. But what makes this special is in 1890, very few people had this. You know, the first power station, like significant power station in St. Louis, was not built until 1901. You had smaller regional power stations that would fuel basically a neighborhood or a few houses. So you had to be connected to a system that was very limited at the time. This would have been a real wow factor at the time because most people didn't have the gas part. You know, that still had to be in a pretty fine house. Then to add electric in 1890, I mean, it's really something that very few homes had. To put this in some kind of perspective, guys, as you go higher up in the Magic Chef mansion, she has half gas, half electric sconces because people were still using that sort of method. And that's 1908. So to have the technology present here in 1890, pretty awesome. And it was rare, and that's why the fixtures are rare. You can find, you know, ones that are all electric, which means you would have had to have had, you know, confidence in your power. So that probably wasn't until like 1900, for the case of St. Louis, 1901. I think another thing people kind of forget about is how miraculous the fact that this building or this house was actually built with a bathroom. Again, cutting edge technology. Did people have bathrooms in homes way before this? Yeah, to some extent. I mean, the Romans had running water in bathrooms, right? That weren't outhouses. But that was still in massive, big cities. But to have an indoor bathroom in this time period, you had to have some pretty serious money. I mean, a lot of St. Louis, or I don't think it was mandated in St. Louis to even have to have indoor plumbing until 1950. So, you know, it was still somewhat common to see people that didn't even have bathrooms then. And we're talking, what is that, 70 years before that? So, you know, rather remarkable that this house not only has some of the beautiful woodwork and some of the finer things in the house, but the technology of the time that was being utilized in the house was cutting edge. I love this place, and I think it's fascinating that he was, you know, that Mr. Brown put a lot of money into what was the highest tech stuff you could get. You know, and I don't know that the entire house had these, you know, electric everywhere, but, you know, a large portion of it did. And so, yeah, I find that to be rather remarkable. In other remarkable news this week, Ken over at this house, the guys that did that independent tour of my house, he sent me over a photo of two kids standing out front of a house in my neighborhood. And not only is it in my neighborhood, it's on my street in 1959. And you can still see Mr. Hall's house and my house and the other house that's missing in between us. The other crazy thing is those kids at the time were living in this house right here. And this one still stands, albeit a bit beat up, but it's still here. The amazing thing is you can't see it now either, but in the photo, there's a little hex pathway, and it actually still is under here. In the winter, I've seen it before, but I'm not gonna try to mow this to show you guys. But still, the kids stood right there. How amazing is that? And then looking back down the street and having Hall's house and the other house here that's missing. So to me, that photo, it means a lot. It's the first time I've ever been able to see Mr. Hall's house, and to see that it's exactly in line with mine. I thought it might have been pushed forward a little bit, but no, it's exactly in line, and that, yeah, it's the same house. I've only seen little glimpse in that really old photo I have from 1892, and to finally see it and to see this streetscape together and cohesive, and it's just, yeah, I don't know, things like that. I mean, that means a lot, you know. It's, I don't know. I mean, you never get the opportunity, or it's hard sometimes to be able to look back through time, and photos are the only way we can do that, really. I mean, we can all speculate and I can guess on how things looked and guess on how the neighborhood operated. But once you can see a glimpse in that or hear a story, and you guys have heard me say it a million times, that's so very valuable. And to me, it means a lot to be able to see how it looked, how it operated. I mean, to little minute details, like I noticed that the rail that I have on the side of my house, Mr. Brown or Mr. Hall had the exact same rail. Like, mine's still there. Obviously, his house is gone and the rail with it. But, you know, how incredible. It's just crazy to think about how much this neighborhood's lost. And that, you know, I have an opportunity to save a piece of it, and I feel honored to do that. But yeah, I don't know. In a weird way, I guess the photos make it real. You know, it's just a thought in my head, or I can imagine it. But seeing that photo, it's real, and that's awesome. So thank you, Ken. Thank you guys over at this house. The fact that I was able to get that photo, yeah, awesome. All right, everybody, so I am done with what I'm gonna get done this week. Let's go see how it turned out. So as you can see, I am not done. That's the color everything's supposed to be, and that's just one coat on there, and it's not on the top yet either. Basically, it's almost 10 o'clock now, and I have to go home and put all of this whole video together, so I've got to get out of here pretty shortly. But I wanted to show you guys the progress and how everything's looking, you know, and turning out, and it's, you know, it's really beautiful. It's really cool to see the window kind of all going back together. You can see two places where I had to fill pretty extensive holes. Those are actually the two screws that are holding that whole back piece together, since, again, this is that window that had to be completely cut up, reshaped, redone, everything. Of course, that creates challenges when putting all this stuff back on as well. And so, like everything, I'm assuming this window will take longer than all of the others because that is the nature of this window. But, you know, overall, I'm rather happy with it. Got the panel back in. I took the baseboard off of it down here. As you see, there's just insulation down there. So yes, it is insulated down there. Not sure how much of that ended up on camera. And you can see the big crack running down the middle. These things, again, being so cupped, there's no way of like gluing that back together and sealing it all up. So basically I did the best I can. This is the one panel that people will see the absolute least, because it's going to be A, in this back corner, and B, the radiator goes back here. I'm not moving pipes around, so that's where it goes. It will be a little bit before I do the bottom sections of these, and that's for a few reasons. Essentially, I have to put the floor in down here first, so I can figure out, because this isn't perfectly level yet. From this line here to about right there is about 3/4 of an inch to an inch off, dipping down this way. So I do have to do some corrections there. I'm not exactly sure what kind of pieces of wood or what I'm going to do, but when I put the new flooring in, the plinth blocks, I want to sit on top of that flooring, because I don't want the plinth blocks to have any type of like quarter round around, because you don't put quarter round around that. But all the other boards will have quarter rounds just to hide the gaps of the new floor. So that's kind of what's going on with that. But she's insulated. She's beautiful, and it's really, really amazing to see things come back together for once. Anyways, I'm sure there's a few of you yelling at your screen at Caleb. Again, I don't understand why you're doing the details first. Really, I wanted to do plaster again this week, but I absolutely have to have some insulation. I messed up actually with plaster quite a bit this week. I didn't show much of it. Basically, I got that one wall with the window done, and well, done to enough of a degree where I feel comfortable with it. Essentially, the heat just dries the stuff out so fast it cracks. It doesn't really matter what I do with it or how I do it. Every single time it cracks in some way, shape, or form. And I don't want to continue forward until I can get the temperature down in here, which that actually requires a few things. A, it requires me to get a bigger AC. So I need an actual window unit or something that's a little bit beefier than what I've got. B, it requires me to insulate the ceiling. And I tried to just go get some rock wool, some R30 rock wool for the ceiling. And of course, everybody's sold out basically nationwide. So yeah, awesome. But that would be a huge help in here because a lot of the, hot air from over on, the maid's room and the bathroom just rushes into this place. The other thing I really need is the electric to run a bigger AC. I actually have a bigger one. However, every time I use it, it trips everything out in here because it's not supposed to be running off power cords. I do not leave that thing on while I'm gone. Nothing stays on in this house except for my work light while I'm gone. And sorry, there was a little bit of lack of progress this week. It feels like being a bit frustrated with how the plaster's kind of going because, things happen. Of course, I'm human. Things do get to be annoying sometimes if they're not working as you would like them to. And there's learning curve to everything I do in this house. And, things take time. It's a learning process. I understand that. But, be frustrated for 5 minutes, take a step back, try to figure out what's going on so you can take the step forward again. So, one of those sort of weeks for me. Also, a lot of things in the background. A lot of meetings with the plumbers, the electricians, trying to figure out what's the game plan for everything. Spending a lot of time researching, trying to find fixtures for, of course, the lighting, because the electrician's coming, and plumbing, because, I need to start finding these things. I don't want to, for instance, guys, toilets have different rough ends. I need to find out what toilet I'm going to use in each bathroom, because if I don't have that toilet and I buy one that I really like and it has a different rough end, well, then that toilet doesn't go there. So, that's kind of the gist of things, just trying to start figuring out how this project kind of all starts coming together, trying to figure out where I'm going to get, certain resources and where I need to pull money from if I need to pull money from anything. And, it's one of those things. There's always, for every little bit you guys see, there's always 10 things going on in the background, So, but yeah, I still, don't get me wrong, guys. I have been having a blast with this project. It's been so much fun. But, no matter what's going on, or, no matter what happens with this, there's always going to be moments that are frustrating, that are harder, but that's it, rise to the challenge, figure it out. And I love the feeling of that, because once I do get all these problems solved and I do get to figure them out, like every time I look at that certain part of the wall that was like, oh, it was problems there, I get to look back and I'd be like, yeah, I figured that out. I achieved that. I succeeded. And yeah, that's a cool feeling with anything you do, So, basically, if you don't win the battle, make sure you win the war, I suppose. So plans for next week. Next week, I would really, really hope that we can get to the electric, because I'm in desperate, desperate need of actual decent electric in this house. At least, let's say 3 outlets, maybe even a light switch and a light. Oh my goodness, that would, for real though, it would change my world. I just have some reliable power in here. So I'm hoping for that, and I'm hoping to possibly get some sconces on the walls when we do that here. And I'll show you guys kind of a bit more of the layout of what I plan for the library. Of course, if I can get the power, then maybe I'll attempt some more plaster. If not, I will be removing all of the items away from the areas I need to patch with plaster, so it's ready for when I do have the ability, the technology to achieve such things. So guys, that will be this week's episode. As always, 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 thank you guys so much, and have a wonderful rest of your week.